So we all know that modern factories are just swimming in data, mountains of it. But once you've got all that data up in the cloud and you're running analytics on it, the real question is, what do you do with it? How do you actually turn an insight into an action on the floor? Well, that's exactly where predictive manufacturing comes in. It is a game changer. It's about shifting from just looking back at what happened to actually shaping what happens next.
And this really is the core challenge, isn't it? Every operations team is wrestling with this. You've got all the dashboards, you've got the reports, you have visibility, but you're still reacting to problems after they happen. So how do you get ahead of the curve? In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how factories are making that jump, from seeing what happened to controlling what's about to happen.
You know, for decades, manufacturing has been managed by looking in the rearview mirror. Seriously, we analyze downtime reports, we hold monthly scrap reviews, all after the damage is already done. The huge shift that we're seeing now is a move away from these, well, lagging indicators to what we call leading indicators. Think of these as early warning signals, whispers that tell you a problem is brewing, giving you that critical window to step in and do something about it. So what are we even talking about when we say predictive manufacturing? What is it at its core? Well, simply put, it's all about using the patterns buried in your historical data. I'm talking every machine cycle, every quality check, to anticipate what's coming down the pike. It's about turning your factory's own deep experience into its own kind of crystal ball.
And let's be really, really clear about the goal here. This is not about letting some algorithm run the plant and replacing people. No way. It's about empowering your people. We're trying to give operators and maintenance teams and engineers the one resource they can never get enough of: time. It's about giving them the time to act before a little hiccup turns into a full-blown crisis.
Now, predictive manufacturing usually breaks down into two main flavors. First, you've got predictive quality. This is all about asking, is this process about to make a bad part? Then you have predictive maintenance, which is asking a different question. Is this machine about to fail? Both are trying to prevent a bad outcome, but they're looking for totally different signals. For predictive quality, the system is like a detective, hunting for these really subtle clues that a process is starting to drift out of spec. It's not waiting for a failed part to show up. It's analyzing tiny changes in torque, slight temperature fluctuations, or even patterns in how different operators run the same machine. Now, on their own, any one of these might just be noise, but together, they are the whispers that come right before the shout of a defect. Predictive maintenance tells a very similar story, just with a different set of signals. I mean, forget running a machine until it breaks or doing maintenance just because the calendar says so. The system is tracking things like cycle times that are getting just a little bit longer, a small increase in nuisance alarms, or subtle new trends in vibration. This is how you start fixing machines on your schedule, not theirs. Of course, none of this happens by magic. For any of this to be accurate, you have to have a solid data foundation, and it's built on three pillars. First, you need history, enough production data for patterns to actually show up. Second, you need context. You've got to link your quality results directly to the process data for that specific part. And third, continuity. You need consistent data collection over time. Look, without that structured data from your MES, any prediction is really just a guess. And here's the thing. A prediction is only powerful if it actually leads to action, right? That's where this closed-loop process is so essential. First, the system detects a signal. Second, the right person, the decision owner, gets notified. Third, they take a standardized, predefined action. And finally, and this is so critical, the outcome of that action gets logged back into the system. That feedback is how the model learns and how the whole operation gets smarter. Okay, theory is great, but let's see how this actually works in the real world. So imagine a critical workstation on your final assembly line. Your MES has logged thousands and thousands of cycles, and that historical data shows a super clear pattern. When the variability of a specific torque operation starts to drift, the probability of creating a scrap part doubles. So, instead of finding that bad part an hour later down at the inspection station, the operator gets a simple, clear alert right on their screen. The risk of scrap is rising at this station. This immediately triggers a standard action. Maybe it's a quick tool adjustment. And just like that, a piece of scrap has been avoided in real time, not just counted in a report at the end of the week. Okay, now let's apply the same thinking to maintenance. Think about a really critical motor on your line.
Your control system, your SCADA, shows it's been triggering these small, seemingly random alarms for a couple of weeks. At the same time, the process data shows the cycle time for that station is slowly creeping up. These are those subtle, sneaky signs of a failure that's on its way.
Now, to a human, those might look like disconnected events, but a predictive model sees them as a single, clear pattern. The maintenance team gets a notification, failure probability is rising. So now they can schedule a repair during the next planned changeover instead of scrambling to fix a catastrophic failure in the middle of a huge production run. That is the power of getting ahead of the problem. It's also super important to understand what prediction is not. This isn't some automatic shutdown system. It's not about algorithms taking over the factory. And it is absolutely 100% not about replacing human judgment and expertise. You should think of it as an advanced decision support tool. It's a tool that gives your experts better information so they can make smarter decisions faster.
And the financial impact of making this shift? It's enormous. I mean, look at this. When you move from that reactive model, where you're bearing the full cost of scrap, rework, and unplanned downtime, to a predictive one, your cost of poor quality just plummets. You're not just making things run a little smoother, you are directly protecting your bottom line.
But, and this is a big but, this isn't just a technology project you can go by. It requires real organizational maturity. You need disciplined data quality, you need consistent master data, making sure everyone calls the same part number and machine the same thing. You need clear definitions for defects. For these predictions to work, your operations, quality, and maintenance teams all have to be speaking the same data language.
So what's the big payoff? What do you get for all this work? Well, the improvements show up in the KPIs that everyone cares about. Your OE, your overall equipment effectiveness, it becomes way more stable, your quality trends start heading in the right direction, uptime increases, and your teams start making decisions faster and with more confidence. It's a fundamental change from a reactive, firefighting culture to a proactive, data-driven one. So let's wrap this up. Predictive manufacturing is all about seeing what's coming before it happens. It warns you about scrap before you make it and about breakdowns before they stop your line. And it drives this cycle of continuous improvement through a constant loop of action and feedback. The biggest takeaway here is that this isn't science fiction anymore. With the right data foundation, prediction is no longer the future of manufacturing, it's the present. Next time, we're going to take this whole idea a step further and explore digital twins, these incredible virtual factory models where you can simulate changes before you ever risk them in the real world. I hope you found this useful. We'll see you for the next one.